there's a moment every real leader has faced. Not sure why, but it's a moment when you realize that conversation is coming and you can feel it all over your body before you admit it in your mind. Your stomach gets in a knot, your heart and thoughts start racing, and suddenly you catch yourself hoping just for a moment that someone else can handle it. But no one's coming. And deep down, you know that avoiding it has always cost you more time, effort, and even more money. Here's the real twist. Your brain isn't scared of the conversation itself, it's scared of the unknowns. How will the other person react? Will this harm our relationship? Will this thing blow up? Or is it finally going to fix something? That tension has a technical name. It's called the Zeigarnik effect. Your mind keeping the unfinished business open, but pushing you towards resolution whether you like it or not. And until you step into that conversation, it keeps looping and looping, killing your sleep, draining you, leading the moment instead of letting you lead it. And I know it just too well. But imagine if you flipped the script. You walk in prepared, not overthinking or rehearsing every outcome, but centered, clear, and grounded. And that's what today is about. Not the war, not the conflict or the word snipping, but the moment before the moment. The space where managers become leaders. And today, we're going to break open that mindset and the tools that turn pressure into presence and fear into clarity. So stay with me, because in the next few minutes, you're going to hear insights from a real expert. Practical knowledge that will reshape how you lead the people who depend on you. So let's do this together.
Hello.
Hey, Sam. Welcome to Generating Leaders. Thank you for taking the time. I think this is going to be a great and very useful conversation. More coming from you, someone who has over 30 years of experience both in the private, public, and federal sector. How are you?
I'm doing okay. Yourself?
I'm doing good. So Sam, thank you for taking the time. One of the questions we continue to receive here at Generating Leaders is how managers and supervisors can address difficult questions they're having with staff, either because they're not performing, either during evaluation time, all the multiple things that can occur, or maybe during a mistake. From your perspective, how do you think that we can guide or that we can help the people who are listening in having some of those difficult conversations?
Sure. I think the workplace is a community of people bringing different skill sets, perspectives, attitudes, and interpretations. And so there's always going to be conflict, and will always be a need to have critical, crucial conversations. I do think that in the context of the work environment where you have, supervisor and you have supervisees and you have work groups, I think that there are a number of situations there that require, critical conversations and it's contextual, so it may be a colleague to a colleague. Okay. So there's sort of peer-to-peer conversation. Be the supervisor to the employees, so that's that requires kind of a managerial responsibility or perspective. It could also be an employee to a supervisor, and it could also be a work group setting.
Yes.
So in all those situations, you may have crucial conversations, and I think what's important is not so much what you should do, but what you should not do. So as a leader or manager, I think it's really important to create a culture where you can have crucial conversations. And that culture has to be one of of encouraging openness, encouraging folks to identify, issues and problems that affect relationships and productivity. And I think it needs to be a culture in which you reward, people, coming forth and looking for solutions, because the bottom line is you want people to produce, and you want people to produce in ways that are helpful, to the mission.
And Sam, if I may interrupt,
yes.
Thank you for bringing that as the first point, because that is going to be a future conversation around psychological safety. How do you create that space within the office that people feel comfortable? But sorry, man, keep going.
Yes, and creating a safe environment, that's exactly, the point here, for sure. And I also think that, you have to approach critical conversations with sensitivity, because what you don't want to do is bring up a conversation with someone with the idea that you're going to crush them because you're right. So you should always go into it, with the idea that you want to maintain someone's dignity, and that you're sensitive to how they might react, and the fact that they may not see that they're doing something wrong or interpreting something wrong. So I think sensitivity, being sensitive, to the situation, particularly if you're a supervisor, you have the extra element of power, where you can reward or punish people, especially during the time you do evaluations. So you have to understand those dynamics. I think that's really critical. The other thing you want to do is, not avoid talking about the difficult situations.
Yes.
Because conflict is very tense, and it could produce a lot of anxiety. And there's a burden when you are in a position where you have to address something. It, again, doesn't matter whether you have the element of being a supervisor or not, it does produce anxiety. And so you have to have a level of comfort and a level of responsibility and a level of understanding that you can't avoid the problem, because it's just going to get bigger and bigger.
So Sam,
and it affects the bottom line.
So Sam, if I may, I think you spoke about two very important points in there. So the second point that you made is, don't go into the conversation thinking that you need to win or lose. That's not what it's about. Because when you do that, when you're going into crushing, you don't fix anything. You also spoke about emotional intelligence. It's reading the other person, how the other person is receiving, how you are receiving, or how you are portraying the information, which is also vital so you can get your point across. What else?
Exactly. Well, I think first, I think you have to take on, just building on this thing about, winning and losing, what you really want to do, because both are a slippery slope. What you really want to do is approach the situation from the perspective of learning. It's seeking to understand rather than be understood.
Yes.
You really want to create a dialogue. You want to go in there and you want to create a dialogue, and because what you really want to have happen is you want a focus on the actual concern, on the actual issue, right? And so that I think is really, really important, that you go in saying, okay, this is about learning, what the problem is, how you might be contributing, how might you be understanding the issue, what's your role, what could we do differently? And that's the part I think you break through when you start saying, we realize this is a problem because it's affecting how so-and-so feels, they don't want to come to work because they feel bullied, or the team is not producing because of this. So, now, what can we do to change things around, and what can you do and how can I help you as your supervisor or as your colleague, to turn things around. And that's when you focus on that learning piece of it, I think you make movement for sure.
So Sam, I think that you have delineated most of the key points that are needed in order to have or to start a difficult conversation. There's one key component which I will love to explore with you more in the future. But after the conversation takes place, what are some of the follow-up action points that you will do as a supervisor?
So I think there has to be commitment. Okay, so what will you do differently? Let's map that out. Let's kind of talk about what that means.
Yes.
In terms of what you would do, and then let's move forward and let's go ahead and reschedule a time when we can revisit and touch bases and see how things are going, and see what support you need. I think that's important. You shouldn't just leave a conversation with the understanding that they think they know the issue and that they're going to act on the issue, and that you don't need, it's done and over with. Behaviors are pretty much cemented sometimes, and they come from many different sources, and it's not a one-time deal. And the other thing is, if there are issues and concerns with an individual's performance or behavior or what have you, one time, most likely, it'll pop up again in a different scenario, So it's really important that you set the expectation, to connect. And by addressing the issue that first time, if you will, the second time will be a lot easier.
And you can revisit the previous conversation, and in certain circumstances, it might even be very productive to document the conversation between both individuals and send it with what were the agreements and some of the follow-up. Yeah?
Absolutely. And it's important, again, getting back to creating a culture for crucial conversations, right? To emphasize the safety component, this is about resolving a problem, I think you can always escalate if it repeats itself, or if nothing changes, you can escalate it. But there's no need at that point to introduce, disciplinary behavior, unless, the crucial conversation is about something that you've done that violates the workplace rules and policies.
Excellent. In that way, you continue to maintain the psychological safety. People don't feel necessarily threatened, and they understand that it's something that has been done in order to, on the best interest of both the supervisor and the individual that you're working with.
And on that point, I'll say, because I know we're running out of time, but on that point, one of the important behaviors or statements that you make is to also emphasize what is it you want to see happen.
Excellent. Hey Sam, thank you so much for your time. I know you are an encyclopedia of knowledge and experience, and maybe next time we should devote a little bit of the conversation to maybe sharing an example of something that you've had to deal in the past. But we'll do that on our next conversation. So again, Sam, thank you very much for your time. Again, welcome to Generating Leaders, and I hope that you will be available for a future conversation.
Yes. One last thing, I just want to say that the definition of dialogue, which is what I think, you always should go into a critical conversation with, is the free flow of meaning between two or more people. So it's really important that you get to an understanding, of the behavior, what needs to change, what is the person's role, how you can support them, how you will follow up, and in between there, what you really want to see happen. And then emphasize your faith in the person.
Yes.
Making that change or addressing the issue, right? For the purpose of meeting the mission. You always have to go back to the goals and the mission of what you're trying to do in the workplace. Over.
So it's clarity, honesty, and always done with the belief that things can change and improve.
Absolutely. I mean, given the choice of doing a bad job or doing a great job, or doing the choice of having good relationships and working in teams and not, you probably choose, doing well, having good relationships, being productive. And that's the faith we need to have, and what we need to emphasize in these critical conversations. Over.
Sam, one more time, thank you very much for your time. Welcome to Generating Leaders, and we really are looking forward to having you again in the future, okay? Take care.
You bet. Bye.
Bye.